Welcome back to Empowerment Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Friedman, and we are talking about self-love. How to do it, how to improve it, what not to do so that you don't undermine it. So the keys of self-love. Now, I think self-love plays also a huge role when it comes to the holiday season, which is around the corner, because we are tending to spread the love to everyone else, but not to ourselves. We are actually ignoring often ourselves, our needs, what's good for us. And I believe that's one of the reasons why people feel during and also after the holiday season with such a bad anxiety and depression hangover. And that neglect and that lack of self-love, I think, can really be something that right before the season starts, we can already say, no, I don't want to do this year. This year, I'm going to put myself way on the top of the love list and make myself a priority. Now, does Donald Trump love himself? Well, as I said, I don't really know. But many people would say, well, this guy is full of confidence. This guy feels really good about himself. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. He doesn't care about anybody's judgment or criticism. He just walks his walk and so on. So that could be understood as self-love. Now, we know other people. This is not just about him. We know other people that boast this confidence and that real deep sense of self-assuredness. But in my experience, often those people are not necessarily full of self-love. See, when you love yourself, when you're filled with love, you have a vibration of love, and you give ultimately out what you feel inside. And you are living what you feel inside. You're perceiving and you are projecting love, connection, compassion, all the things that come with it. Now, when someone is more judgmental or more critical or maybe more bullying or just feels like, always on the attack or feels in many ways conditional, you know that whatever this person is projecting to the outside, it's probably also a perception on him or herself. Many of the people that I know that are alphas, that are in control, that are the leaders in charge, they are incredibly hard on themselves. They only accept themselves conditionally. They have a hard time to lose because they see themselves constantly in a competition with others around them and in a competition with themselves. And they cannot accept any flaws. They cannot accept any failures. They cannot accept to be maybe behind someone else. And so all of those things are not necessarily self-love. They're actually showing more a sign of being dissatisfied, wanting more because there's something inside missing, something, as I had with my overachieverness, something that we need to compensate for because on some level we don't really have peace and harmony with ourselves. And I think that's a phenomenon that most of us at some point in our lives have experienced, that more conditional way of accepting than feeling like we can see ourselves in a more unconditional way. So what is the first step we can take to improve self-love? If self-love really helps so much, when it's really something that we benefit so much from, what can we do to improve our level of self-love? Well, the first step is very simple, and it's actually something that we can all do, which is to realize that we do have the ability to love. Maybe not necessarily right away ourselves, but we do have the ability to love someone or something. And just noticing that we do have this ability and realizing how we do it, how we show love, how we see those that we love, how we treat those that we love, we can learn a lot on what we ultimately want. What is our love strategy and what would we like to receive from ourselves to build that greater foundation of self-love. And then, hand in hand with that step, comes the second one, which is noticing what undermines your self-love. What are you doing to yourself on a daily basis that is actually just chipping away on any self, any sense of self, any sense of confidence or self-worth? Well, look at your negative self-talk. I mean, do you judge yourself for your weight? Do you feel like when you wake up and you look in the mirror in the bathroom, who is that old person looking at me? I don't like him. I don't like her. Well, it's terrible. And then you turn your head away. Do you spill a glass of milk and you're down on yourself? Do you feel like that you are nice when, maybe you don't get what you want, or maybe when you're late for work, or are you really hard on yourself? Do you have these ideas of, well, I can only really accept myself if my whole checklist is done, or when every morning at 5 o'clock I get up and cycle around the block to really prove myself that I'm in shape? Where do you feel that you're creating a relationship that's actually a relationship that you wouldn't want to have with anybody else? Now, often just writing down your thoughts, especially those thoughts that are self-bashing, self-critical, that really feel like, well, these are things, insults, negative judgments that I really would never tell anyone else that I love. Writing those things and realize I can be mean to myself. It's no wonder that on some level I don't love myself, because I'm treating myself like my worst enemy. When you have a negative self-talk like that, when a thought like this comes up, just stop yourself. You may want to write it down because you can use it later to understand more where the thoughts are coming from. But write it down and ask yourself, is that really a sign of self-love? Is it a sign that I honor, respect, and value myself? And then ask yourself, if I think about someone I love, someone I really care about, would I ever tell something like this to that person? And the answer is probably no, you wouldn't. And so in that moment, it's important just to say, okay, I need to turn that thought around, or I just need to turn it off. Turning around means you are giving yourself, for example, just a little bit of slack when you have messed up something and said, failures don't exist. They're all learning opportunities. Or when you're looking at yourself and you're not pleased with yourself, just allow yourself to say, I'm not just what I look this morning, and probably I look that way because I have worked too much, or I didn't really take care of myself, or I didn't give myself enough sleep. This is just a sign that I need a little bit more rest, or that I need to be a better steward of my body. Just try to see those thoughts not just as statements that are picturing reality, but just as maybe thoughts that are coming from the depth of your inner being, of your subconscious mind, that are repetition from things that you have heard before, judgments from others, beliefs that you have taken on from others about yourself, and you just have to run those tapes over and over again, because that's what you were made believe. That's who you are. And that's not the truth. We usually grow up in a way that we are believing less about ourselves than we really are. So being aware of that can already help you, that this chipping away, this undermining your self-love will stop. Now, the next key then is to discover more about you. And a client of mine recently wrote me a really nice email, and she told me that she had struggled so long with that issue of finding love in her life. She just felt like, well, there is nobody out there. I don't know what happened. And I know I'm cute. I know I have a, good heart. I know I'm fun. So why don't I find a good man? Well, when we talked about it, she also realized that she had been always told, well, you are cute, you're pretty, you are bubbly, you are the life of the party, and all of those things. She felt like, well, that's who I am. So this is what I'm going to identify myself with. And it wasn't until she did go into a sense of depression, because the man that she attracted, they only wanted basically to get laid. They only just wanted that fun party girl. They only wanted to have that person that she portrayed. And whenever she felt she was maybe more about a deeper conversation, or really wanted just to stay at home and be a little bit cozy, the men found her boring and were uninterested in her and basically walked away. And that was creating this conflict inside of her because she didn't really know who she was anymore. She didn't really know what's wrong with her. And then she realized there were sides of her that are dear to her heart, that are important to her, sides that she was thinking were not acceptable or boring or uninteresting, but they were sides of her that honor who she really is as a person. So those sides were the more sensitive ones, the more vulnerable ones, the sides that were really about just also building a nest, or having sometimes a quiet evening, or being interested in spiritual growth, and just coming more from the heart. And when she noticed that she herself hadn't really embraced those sides of her, she herself didn't really know how to express these aspects of her that kind of lay dormant within her, she went on a quest and said, no more boyfriends, no more looking for a partner. I'm just going to focus on myself, and I'm going to focus on finding out who I am by just tapping into those inner parts that I haven't explored, those parts that I don't really know well, but I know they are just beautiful facets of the diamond of who I am. And I want to learn to live and embrace and be them more, so that when I am looking for love, I'm looking for someone who embraces all of me, and not just this shiny front that I usually only showed to the world around me. So discovering more about yourself, being open and curious on what else you can be, so that you get out of this idea of the expectations of others that need to be pleased, and wondering more, how can I actually figure out more the depth and the width and the multidimensionality of myself. When we come back, we'll talk more about this and also address the question, how does someone who loves oneself, how does that person treat oneself? So stay tuned. We will be right back.